This is JJ7 1987. Writer and blogger to summarize posts and go blog at JJ7 1987.com. So yeah, this is a 2-for special treatment, guys. Yeah. So the second part that I'm gonna actually say, I'm gonna try to keep this one as brief as I can, because I'm sorry, my last one was over 50 minutes. Yeah. Sometimes I need to take breaks, and sometimes I can long gaps, between thoughts. Whatever. So yeah, I'm kind of like I know I'm all over the place, but guess what? There's kind of a method to my madness. Try to build it. So anyhow, yeah, the other part that I think I forgot to mention in my last video, which I'll get to here actually, is as such, it's that the Republicans at this point are very well poised to take the White House, or I think, no, actually I did mention that, but what I don't think I mentioned was actually the craziness that's actually going to be taking place, or about the extent of it. It's like I said on Facebook, I'll throw the link in the description, and if you like it, or if you agree, and or you want to share it with them, and I do advise that you actually do share it with your friends and family, agree or not. If you don't agree with it, just throw me a comment on there. Or if you think that I missed something and you want me to, try to see if I can find some actual research that can sort of back up what I'm saying, that's fine. Or if you think that you have something that I may want to, look into, fine. Go ahead, leave me a comment. I'll be glad to, and I'll be very happy to look into it. And by the way, I would absolutely suggest that you subscribe to my page on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter. You can, you can even subscribe here or follow me on Google+. Hey, it's a lot of good things. And also, subscribe to my blog. That's what I'm going to tell you right now. At least that's on the part of it. But yeah, going back over to the craziness of at least with so far with what we know. Based off of what I have seen, and trust me, I've seen a lot over these past, 4 or 5 weeks. What I can certainly tell you is that we are bound to get united government under the Republicans. I don't think it'll be for very long. I think it'll only be for about maybe 2 years or something. If that, or possibly longer, depending on how badly the DNC really screws up. Or, no, it screwed up pretty royally, actually. It's going to be a matter of, okay, what did they do to try to restore restore the electorate's trust in them? That's what it's going to boil down to. And that, I think, is going to take... Now, H.A. Goodman says, and trust me, he's a great guy to watch. I'll throw his channel link on there, and I would suggest that you subscribe to him. If he asks, like, who else is sort of... who's sending more, viewers his way, tell him just tell him JGSF 1987 sent you. Or just tell him I sent you. You can throw my name's up at the top, so don't worry about it. Just throw it to him. He knows who I am. I've contacted him, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 times. That's about the extent of it. So, I would say definitely listen to him. Listen to Tim Black. Listen to some of the others. They're really good, and they're really good about getting sources out and really getting out a lot of information. Well, I'm not. Oh, I know that I'm not always very good about finding or putting forth the information that'll help to, based on the current events about, and then saying like what is really going on here. I take it from a slightly different angle. I try to take it more from the historical context to try to help people sort of make sense of what's going on. So as with that, let me tell you something that's kind of going on here. What you're seeing is that a political machine that has been well greased and well oiled and has thrown its weight behind a number of sometimes well-meaning people, but other times it's behind people that are just absolute kooks. The way that this has really gotten going is that I'm not going to blame saying that it's solely the Democrats that are at fault or solely the Republicans that are at fault. It's both parties. The problem that's really going on is that one side got really radicalized. Again, primarily because the Republicans, up until midway through Bill Clinton's first presidential term, had been locked either partially or completely out of power, especially in Congress. But this is really true for the House of Representatives. They were locked out of control of the House for 40 years. That's right, 4 decades. 1954 to 1994. Think about that. So when Reagan came along, that was when the Republicans took back the Senate for the first time since they had lost it back in 1954. They regained it in 1980, but they only held it for a small 6-year period before losing it again in 1986. For all of you who lived through that, you know what I'm talking about. But for those of us who haven't lived through it, that's kind of what's going on. But what didn't help, or what really, really radicalized them actually was, or at least started to radicalize them, I wouldn't say it so much, well, the groundwork was sort of, I would say it was kind of laid out, starting with Barry Goldwater in 1964. However, but that only got the ball going. That only started getting the ball rolling. It increased slightly and it built up first from Goldwater to Nixon. There was a slight pause under Ford, which carried over into Jimmy Carter's, and then it rebounded like literally under Reagan and retained itself under Bush Sr. But once Bush Sr. upon agreeing to a tax hike, really radicalized the Republicans, that they dumped him, and that in order to hold on to it, he started saying things that were completely and totally out of whack. That broke the Republicans' governing coalition, at least the prior one, leading up to until right at George Herbert Walker Bush's defeat back in '92. So from that point, the Republicans got really radicalized. first with the congressional takeover in 1994, and then what didn't help was Clinton's, as in Bill Clinton's, egregious behavior, starting from basically the time that, no, I would say before he was even well, basically from, I think before the time he was actually governor of Arkansas. I don't know, maybe it might have been after that. I don't know. For any of you who live in Arkansas, and you see this, tell me if I missed something, because I really want to make sure that I'm giving an accurate timeline here, and if I'm not, let me know in the comments section, and I will look into it. But you get the point, is that it built up and up and up and up and up, and the Democrats did not help themselves by trying to chase it further and further and further and further and further to the right. That's what kept happening, is that the Republicans became more radicalized as time went on. That led us into the Bush years. You know, after 6 years of trying to basically dump Clinton in one form or another. And Clinton's behavior basically gave them the cover to do that. Then Bush came in, and what did he do? He took basically what his father did and what his father's predecessor did, and a lot of other Republican presidents have been doing. I'm not. You could say maybe during Eisenhower. You could say maybe. Or in one part, or basically, as another way of putting it, it's basically that the Bush administration was taking what Reagan did, only he put it on steroids. So, because of that, now they became even more radicalized because of the fact that, again, we elected a black man into the presidency. Yeah, that's one thing. So, I'm not going to entirely pin everything on the Clintons here, even though they're a cause of a lot of these issues, or one of the several causes of a lot of these issues. Ones that Jimmy Carter actually tried to do something about, that Lyndon Johnson and John Kennedy tried to do something about. Hey, this goes back to about Roosevelt. When he tried to do something about it. Truman? Yeah. Think about it. This has been something that got literally turned on its head by Clinton. And it constrained President Obama. And right now, it is literally tarnishing his legacy. He tried to do a lot for this country. But what he gave us was basically baby steps, because it didn't go all. Basically, what he did not go far enough. We need somebody who is literally willing to hold, these captains of industry, basically hold them accountable. But you can't do that when you have can't do that when you have the entire government being bought off. And that's essentially what's going to happen, not just under Hillary. Well, Hillary, that's a given, but don't expect it to get any better under Trump. I mean, look, Trump, I don't fear him, and I know a lot of progressives don't fear him either. I think he's a buffoon, to basically quote H.A. Goodman here. Look, the guy's a carnival barker. He's a loudmouth carnival barker who says things that are completely and totally off the wall and offend everybody. Trust me, Donald Trump is an equal opportunity offender. He doesn't care who he goes after. He's going to offend somebody, or he's going to make it comments that offend everybody. That's his campaign shtick. So let's just get that out of the way. This is not to dismiss him, because we do have to hold him accountable, and trust me, anybody who's a self-respecting American knows that Donald Trump does not represent who we are in a very positive light. However, the biggest problem is also with the Clintons, and specifically with Hillary, is that Hillary has been going inward and inward and inward, almost to the point where she does not trust anybody, or nobody trusts her. Not even those close to her trust her. That's how paranoid she is. This is almost a reincarnation in Richard Nixon. Think about Watergate, and if you live through Watergate, you know what I'm talking about. That's what we're seeing. I wouldn't say that it's a complete replay of it, but it's pretty close to it. And if you're a historian or somebody who's a massive history buff, what does this tell you? This tells you that the corruption is not just plaguing the Republican Party, and right now they've had a small window or a fairly sizable window where they were able to completely clean house to a certain extent, but the point is that he's building a new coalition, one that's very different from a lot of the other Republican coalitions. I know that I said in my last video that I can see Donald Trump taking this election in a 50-state blowout, and I'm telling you that right now. I could absolutely see him doing that. Whether he does it or not is a whole different matter. Now, I'm just saying that a lot of the political tectonics that are taking place right now in a lot of states, even those that are really, really, really deep blue, like for example here in my home state of California, it's a very, very, very strong Democratic state. Been that way since 1992. However, this doesn't mean that Trump could somehow flip this without really doing a lot of campaigning here. He could potentially flip California, just like he could flip all the other blue states. And if he does that, then the Democrats, they are in they're in a world of trouble. Basically, the Democrats have been ignoring their base, their at least the progressive majority of the base, by constantly, basically shutting them out. Well, this can't continue, and so if they think that they can win elections without the progressive wing, guess what? They're sadly mistaken. Progressives don't need the Democratic Party is the bottom line. And so until the Democratic Party really changes its tune, or starts opening itself up to basically going back to its own net roots, which is being the party of labor, not the Republican, not the light form of the Republican Party, that's what will get them back in. But until they clean house, they don't have any business being in any levers of power. That is, until Trump and the Republicans do something really stupid, which is pretty much highly guaranteed anyhow. Then that should be more of the reason. So anyway, I don't know, but think about it. Think about how the Clintons have basically helped the process of practically radicalizing the Republicans to the point that they're now engaging and openly campaigning on basically overt racism at this point, or overt hatred. A lot of this was driven by the Clintons, just like it was with the Bushes, well, particularly Bush Sr. And, and Reagan, along with particularly Nixon as well, but not so much Ford. Ford, he tried to stay out of it. That was about the last time that a Republican wasn't really trying to be overly engaging. Well, both Bushes, in terms of, in some form or another, when it comes to some form of bigotry or another, so that's what you're dealing with. Anyway, so I'll call it here, and sorry, I know it was kind of a mini ramble, but I will cut it here, and again, subscribe and leave your thoughts below. Thanks again for watching this.